Let's talk about the district elections. The Electoral Commission is in talks with the police to evaluate the security situation at Akumfi in the central region following threats by some residents there to physically prevent the EC staff from conducting the polls there tomorrow. The warning issued at a news conference by the resident comes just hours to the vote to elect new assembly members and unit committee representatives. Well, this afternoon we bring you details of that capturing and an elaborate security plan announced by the Electoral Commission at a news conference ahead of the polls earlier this morning. First, though, listen to the EC chairperson in charge of operations, Samuel Tete, announcing the EC's readiness for the poll.
As part of the build-up, the Commission undertook recruitment, interview, and training of all election officials. So all categories of election officials recruited as of now have been trained at the regional and district levels to prepare them adequately for their respective duties. The last batch of trainings, which is the grassroots training, ended on Saturday, 14 December 2019. In all, about 159,000 election officials have been trained for this election, and they include returning officers and deputy returning officers, returning officers special duties, presiding officers, key trainers or technicians, name reference list officers, verification officers, and ballot issuers. Printing and distribution of election materials. For effective procurement and deployment of logistics and other election materials, the Commission drew a detailed deployment plan to ensure the success of the management and deployment of its logistics to the regions and districts. All election materials and equipment required for the district level elections have been procured in sufficient quantities and dispatched to the various regions and districts. They include materials like validating stamps, ballot boxes, stationery, tampering pads, indelible ink, etc., etc. All notices of poll and ballot papers have been printed and dispatched to the various regions and districts. The notices of poll have been posted at vantage areas at polling stations and electoral areas across the country. The final voters register to be used. The final voters register of all the 31,851 polling stations have been printed and dispatched to the various regions and districts. Biometric verification devices would be used to verify voters in the elections. 58,000 BVDs have been refurbished and dispatched to the various regions and districts. The 58,000 includes backups, which would be used to replace BVDs, which would develop faults at the polling stations. In addition, well-trained technicians have been deployed to the regions and various zonal centers to provide technical support to the polling officials when necessary. With respect to platform mounting, the Commission started mounting common platform for all candidates contesting in the District Assembly and Unit Committee elections in all the 6,272 electoral areas across the country. The exercise started on the 1st of December and ended successfully on Saturday, 14 December 2019.
Well, that is the Electoral Commission there for you. JoyNews editor Fred Smith was at the news conference. He joins me here in the studio with more. He's going to tell us, first of all, how tomorrow is planned for persons going to vote. I believe that you're ready to vote. Let me hear from you if you are on our WhatsApp platform. Fred, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Gifty.
So tell us about how tomorrow will look like.
Well, polls, as happens in Ghana, always will open at 7 a.m. So anybody who is eligible and willing to vote can go to the polling station at that time. If you want to be ahead of the queue, you may want to go there a bit earlier so that you start forming the queue before the polls will open, which will be at exactly 7 o'clock, unless there's any unforeseen circumstance. But as it is per the plan, the EC does not anticipate any problems, and so we expected to start right on time. At the polling station, you're supposed to produce your voter's ID card to make it easy for you to be identified. If you do not have that, it does not mean you cannot vote. You can vote, but the officers on ground would do further checks. They will check the register, whether your name is there, that's first, and then they will also check your biometrics. So biometric verification devices will also be available to be sure that you are the one who is registered. And that's basically what will happen. And then once you are screened and you are cleared to vote, you go to, there are 2 booths, one for the assembly members election and the other one for unit committee election. So you go to the first booth after taking your first ballot paper, and then select which candidate you want by just pressing on him, as we do in the national elections. Then you'd have selected, you'd have voted for that. And then you can also move on to the next one. You'll be given a second sheet. Then you also cast your ballot for them. You will be, your fingers will be dipped in an indelible ink to indicate that you have voted, so you can't go and vote again anywhere else, because nobody's allowed to vote more than once.
It's pretty simple and straightforward. Did the Electoral Commission...
Indeed, we can hear from Samuel Tete, who is the EC chairperson in charge of operations, outlining all of these.
Voters' first point of call at the polling station should be the names reference list table. That is the first table or desk. At this table or desk, the fingers of the voter will be examined for traces of electoral stain to ascertain that the voter has not already voted. If a stain is found and the voter is not a proxy, he or she will not be allowed to continue the process. However, if a stain is not found, the processing of the voter will continue. Assistant on table 1 will search for the name of the voter in the name reference list with the help of the voter's ID card. If the voter's name is on the names reference list, the voter will be given back his or her voter's ID card and be asked to move to the next desk. That is the verification table. At the verification table, which is manned by Assistant 2, will check the details of the voter in the register against the voter ID card, and in addition, for resemblance of the photograph in the register with the face of the voter. The barcode of the voter in the register will then be scanned using the biometric verification device. The voter will then be requested to put a finger on the fingerprint scanner of the BVD, and the process will be repeated for all the fingers if any of them fails on the first attempt. If the verification device matches the fingers of the voter, the device will show with a green light and give a message verified from the audio mechanisms of the device. If there is no match, a red light will be shown with a voice message rejected. The left little finger of the voter will then be dipped in an indelible ink. The voter then moves to the district assembly ballot table, which is the first table, and he or she will be issued with district assembly ballot paper after it has been validated by stamping the back. Then the voter is directed to the voting screen and the district assembly ballot box. The voter then moves to the unit committee ballot table, where he or she will be issued with a unit committee ballot paper after it has been validated by stamping the back. The voter is then directed to the voting screen and the unit committee ballot box. So the most important thing is, the first is the assembly, and then the second one is for the unit. The voter will be required to leave the polling station after voting and return at 5 p.m. to to observe the counting. If you finish voting, the polling station is a restricted area. You must leave, and when it is time for you, it is time for the counting, you can come back and observe.
So that's the EC chairperson in charge of operations there, Samuel Tete, addressing us there. He says, once you finish voting, just leave the polling station and come back around 5 p.m. when counting is ready.
The usual advice that never gets heeded to. But
yes,
anyway.
This time they've declared the polling stations restricted areas, and therefore you cannot be there. They are very strict on that. Okay. And that takes us to security. I'm sure we'll be talking about
the security arrangements there. So, I mean, we had already told our viewers how the Electoral Commission says it will be evaluating the situation, especially at Ekumfi. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, indeed, there's a general plan for security for this particular election we're having tomorrow. The plan has been submitted to the police, who will be in charge of security tomorrow. And I'm sure they'll get support from other security agencies, but mainly it is the police. And so they've been told where flashpoints are, where they should step up the security and where they should relax and what they should look out for in which area, because traditionally we know the areas where there are problems, and so all of those areas. And if you recall, he mentioned that there are 3 districts in which the election will not take place tomorrow.
Which are these districts?
In Nkranza North, in Nkranza South, and Lower Manya Krobo district. And those places, Lower Manya had their election in October 2018, and therefore the term of the officers in charge, the assembly members and the unit committee members, have not expired yet. They have a 4-year mandate, and they must see through that. Now, for Nkranza North and South, there was some other issues, the security problems, which did not allow them to vote when we were all voting 4 years ago. And that was because there was this issue of financial institution not being able to pay persons who had invested monies there. I think it's God is Love also. So the security situation at the time wasn't the best. So the Electoral Commission was advised against running the poll at the time, and so the election took place at some point in time. So the mandate has also not expired yet. So on the advice of the police, they are not running these 3. Aside that, all other polling stations are running this, and the police will be looking out for any troublemakers, anybody who is violating the law in one way or the other, so that they deal with them, especially the flashpoints. We know some of those places where there have been violence in previous elections. The police will send in more men, more equipment, and to address that. We can hear from Samuel Tete, who's rolled out the entire security plan and the punishment that awaits anybody who foments trouble.
Well, let's see what they say.
The Commission has submitted a list of all polling stations across the country, including flashpoints, to the security agencies. This is to enable them to deploy security men to the polling stations on election day to ensure law and order. We must also note that there are certain things that, when we do, can impact negatively on the conduct of the elections. This is what we normally call the election offenses. And we must note that both the election official and the voter can commit an election offense. And below are some of the offenses. It is an offense for anybody to vote or attempt to vote if he or she is not a registered voter. It is also an offense to vote or attempt to vote more than once. It is also an offense to vote or attempt to vote in the name of another person, either dead or alive. And it's also an offense to be in possession of another person's voter ID card without his or her written consent. It is also an offense to prevent someone from voting, knowing he or she is eligible to vote at that polling station. It is also an offense to induce or compel somebody to vote in a particular way. It's also an offense to be in possession of any election material without authorization from the Commission. It is also an offense to obstruct election officials while carrying out their legitimate duties. It is also an offense to destroy or deface any poster or material displayed in connection with the election or sent to the police station for the election. And this is quite common when it comes to the district level elections. You find defaced posters. It is also an offense to print any material without authorization from the Electoral Commission. That's election material. And there is a penalty for that. A person who commits any of the offenses listed above shall be prosecuted and is liable on conviction to a fine not exceeding 1 million Ghana cedis or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years or both.
More on the EC's arrangements for tomorrow. Now we'll also look at what other arrangements there are, including for persons with disability. Fred, give us a brief on what they say.
Well, so persons with disability, according to the Electoral Commission, will not join any queue tomorrow. So if you are in the queue and you see someone who has a disability, unfortunately for Ghana, persons with disability have not been registered. But you see them, some with physical disability, so you'll be able to make them out. Such persons are not supposed to join the queue, and so the Electoral Commission officials who will be present will take them to the front, so they do not join any queues, and then they will go. They are not the only people. Persons who are vulnerable, so pregnant women, for instance, will not be made to join the queue. So if you're in the queue, you see someone heavily pregnant, they will not be there. Senior citizens, like persons who are very weak, all of these people will not be made to join the queue.
Okay, so do we get to hear from
we
the
get
EC
to hear
on that
from
as well? Well, we
Samuel
can go to the EC for the last time on their arrangements for tomorrow, because we'll also be telling you what the people in the community and the candidates are saying. Final soundbite from the EC.
The Commission has also made arrangements for persons with disability. All eligible voters are informed that persons with disabilities will not be required to join long queues at the polling stations, and therefore must be given the opportunity to vote anytime they arrive at the polling station to vote. In addition, Commission has provided tactile ballot jackets in addition to the ballot paper for the visually impaired to enable them vote.
Arrangement there for visually impaired persons. I mean, with all kinds of physical disabilities, they're going to they have that arrangement for you. Finally, Fred, before you go, there have been talk about the voters register. The Electoral Commission wants to work on a new register. Not all the parties agree with that. That has been a raging debate. What did they say at the press conference today? Well,
so for tomorrow's election, we're going to use the existing register for tomorrow's election. However, the new register that you mentioned, that the EC is going to compile in 2020, will be for the 2020 general elections. Now, here's the reason. The current register, the EC said at this news conference today that it's very credible, we can't use it. However, they want to strengthen the security features of the register, and so they want to, in addition to the fingerprints and other biometric data that they've collected as part of this, they're also going to add facial recognition. They're also going to add facial recognition to this, and so that will have enhanced features such as facial recognition features and other, biometric details.
So, well, this is not an arrangement that all the parties have agreed to, but it is still an ongoing conversation, actually a raging debate going on there. Fred, thank you very much for coming with those details. Fred Smith is an editor here at JoyNews, also producer for this program. Well, let's go on the ground where there are electoral area specific stories coming up for you. We have the case of the Ekumfi, problem where they are saying they wouldn't allow the EC officials to operate there. We have an interview with the AC chairperson responsible for operations, which we have just played for you. But let's take a visit to Achimota Mile 7, specifically to the Trobu electoral area on the campaign. Komla Adom has that report.
The district level elections, JoyNews finds out preparations made by the candidates in the Trobu electoral area so far and how prepared the community is for tomorrow's polls. Residents of Trobu say roads and healthcare delivery are key factors they will consider before casting their ballots. Let's hear from them.
It's a few hours to the district's level elections expected to, be taking place on the 17th of December. And we are currently out here at Trobu electoral area around Kingsby to speak to some of the community folk about, how preparations have gone so far, who the, candidates are, whether they've seen as much campaign activity, since the time nominations were opened, etc., and possibly try to get into their minds who they'll be voting for. Are you going to be voting based on the ideas that the candidates have come to sell to you, or you're just voting because there's a particular candidate you want to vote for because you have to vote for him?
I would go in for the person who would come and work.
Yes, of course. He has done a lot of things. If somebody is not feeling well, he'll make sure that you come and pick the person to the hospital and take the person back. And a lot of activities have been going on here. At least he's the one that we're going to vote for him.
Interesting. Mr.
Yeah.
Apart from what Asantwa and David have spoken to us about, the health screening, the drainage problems, the roads, what more has convinced you to vote for Mandela at tomorrow's polls?
Yeah, compared to what I've done, you see the street light. Before there was no street light here, but now you can go around this place, you can see light all around.
We should take this advantage and then tell people about the assembly election. It's equally important as the MP and the presidential, okay, because I know the assemblymen really work. They really work. I don't want to compare them to other, candidates. They really work. They work for the MPs and the presidentials as well. So if they take good notes on the assembly and go and vote for them, I think they would help the country develop. Yeah.
Incumbent assembly member for the Trobu electoral area, Mandela Yuafi Edward, believes he has done enough to secure another term in office to continue projects he's lobbied for.
Over the past 4 years, I've been with them. We have improved in terms of developmental projects, and that is why my people want to give me the second nod so that I can continue with the developmental projects.
And we've been going through the community. We see billboards and we see some of the projects that have been undertaken by you. Just run us through.
Thank you very much. These are projects that has come into this community, or that my electoral area has enjoyed throughout my 4 years of being assembly member for the area. It doesn't necessarily mean that I have used my pocket money, but it is things that I have lobbied through our MP, through our municipal chief executive or our districts, and then through stakeholders within the community.
But some residents have vowed not to vote, citing empty promises from candidates as reasons.
Election, 17 December election.
I will not vote in the district level election. There is no need to vote.
But one to other people will make a decision on your behalf or take care of it.
No, the minimum bet. I'm
okay with whoever is choosing, but I won't vote.
The local assembly elections, the campaigns now, candidates for now, or more changing your campaign ideas. Ni be ato assume. The almost one be ato assume.
Oh, be ato assume, but nina yan tronko. O kase o ya ube di asemo ma na be yewe na be kwan aboa. Eti kan de obeti.
All the ideas by the candidates are lies and are never fulfilled.
Yes, na kase oba mehwa mere mo e be ye kwan be tutu apotos. The man I didn't know one into photos nothing into Obama and Abbey.
Or more arguments, never say step by step, or more other things. Ebia Osama 4 years now, and on bed, or do roads, so because a banner, street lights, Nadia Ben, drains, Nadia, they Ebia no my.
We've lost hope in all the candidates.
My need to be a
Chobu electoral area is still in focus. A few hours to the local level elections, and we'll be speaking to another of the candidates who is vying for the position of assembly member here. We've been hearing from some of the community folk. I'm joined by Robert Enchi Echampon. Welcome, sir, to Joy News. Now, what ideas have you been sharing with the youth, and from your engagements with them, what has been their reception to the ideas you've been sharing?
My ideas that I share with the youth is about educating the youth on social vices. There's no denying the fact that the moral standard of our present-day youth is at a very low ebb and must be a serious concern to all citizens.
And how are you going to address this issue of the social vices among the youth?
I'll do a forum to educate them on that.
We have a third male candidate for the position of assembly member of the Chobu electoral area, Raymond Kofi Yeboah. We are just going to be speaking to him briefly to understand what ideas he's been sharing with the electorate and what the expectations are a few hours to the poll. Thank you very much, Mr. Yeboah, for joining us. Now, you've done some extensive work going around, campaigning and selling your ideas. What have you been telling the people?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank my people in Chobu electoral area, New Achimota Ma 7, for the good reception that they are giving me and the support. My idea for them here we have is four, because we have a road network problem, sanitation, drainage system, and then street lighting. What am I asking them to vote for me? When they vote for me, together with the landlord association, then we can build a new Achimota to expectation that all we want to be. And what I need is their support. And then because as an assembly member, you alone cannot do the work unless the residents, which are the stakeholders, they will help you some of the activities that you have to be embarking on.
From 3 out of the 4 candidates who are vying for the position of assembly member for the Chobu electoral area, at the end of poll on Tuesday, it will be seen whether Mr. Mandela Rafi Edward, who is the incumbent, will be giving another term, or would it be Mr. Robert Enchi Echampon who will be giving the mandate, or would it be Mr. Kofi Yeboah who will take the position? I have to say that we tried to speak to the 4th candidate, Madame Nafiatu, but we were unable to reach here. So divided views and opinions from electorates here. Some of them you heard say they are not going to vote at all. Others are going to go out and vote. It remains to be seen how it all pans out. So from the Chobu electoral area, specifically Kingsby Roundabout, I am Komla Adom reporting for Joy News.
And we have less than 24 hours to know how it all goes down.